leg armature. It's the high heel boot armature that you get from Art Dolls, and I have just tweaked it a little bit. Is what I've done is I've just taken a 3x3 inch square of aluminum foil and just put it on the very tip of my boot, and then just shaped it into the witch pointy shoe at the end. And then I just took some aluminum tape and just taped it on. You could also use floral tape. Anything like that would work just fine. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start layering my clay onto the boot. And so to get the sheet that I've gotten, I've just ran it through my pasta machine on the biggest setting. So this is a 1/8 inch thick piece of clay, and I am just going to start wrapping around my boot. Just get it on there. And try not to overlap your seams, because if you do, then it's just going to get bulky. Just keep on going. Wrap it around the bottom, just like so. And I'm just using my dirty clay pile that I've just been setting aside. Okay, and then just blend it in. Just put it where you need it, and then just blend in from there. Now it kind of looks really long, but it's gonna curl up like an old witch shoe, just like so. Okay. Now just make sure that that clay is attached to the armature. You don't want any bubbles in there that will cause bubbles or moonies. You really won't see the moonies or bubbles if you do happen to get them, so don't be scared of creating bubbles. We'll be putting the shoe over the top of this. So what we'll do is we'll get this all blended in, and then we'll go up and we'll bake it. And then just be aware, if you're going to use a hidden stand, then you'll want to keep that hole on your armature opened up. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to blend this all in. Okay, so I have blended in my clay onto my armature, and while I was doing the blending, I just gently pressed down with my thumb to create the back of the heel on the shoe. Press down, and then I set it on my table and I just gently pulled down just to shape the shoe. Just like so. And then I made the ankle a little thinner, and that's just by pulling up and pulling down. Be careful not to get it too thin. And then just smooth on up. And then for the back of this, is what I've done is I've just taken my tool and just went around it to create that ridge, because I want a chunky heel on my shoe. And another thing you want to do is just make sure that your boot is gonna stand. So to do that, you just press down and then just work it and make sure it's standing. Just like so, and then I've curled up my tip. So it looks like that. And there's the chunky heel. And then I've just brought it up in the back up here just to give her a little bit of a calf. I mean, she's going to have a sock right here, so none of this is really going to be visible. If you notice, my clay is just filthy. But it's going to have a sock over it, and the boots will be painted, so nobody's going to ever see that you had dirty clay. Just make sure you blend everything in really nice so you don't have no harsh edges. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go bake this at 275 for 10 minutes. And when I bake it, I'm going to make sure that the boot stands just like that. And then you shouldn't have any problems with that foot standing. Okay, one more thing before I do throw her in the oven. Just keep in mind, if you're going to have her standing on a hidden stand, you do want to keep this hole clear of any clay. So if you've put in clay over it, just take a tool, pop it down through the hole at the top, and then just ream that out just like so. So you have a hole. Okay, so the foot has been baked. So now let's go ahead and jump into making the boot. Or I'm actually going to do a shoe instead of a boot on this one. And the first thing you're going to want to do is just roll you out another piece of clay about 1/8 of an inch thick, and then cut it into a tombstone shape. This is called the vamp. And then I also like to put a little bit of bacon bond on there just for security and to make sure it does attach to the baked clay. Just get some up in here. Okay. And then I am just going to lay that onto the boot. Actually going to fold it. And I want this to come up because I do want a tongue. So there we go, and then just gently start pulling down. Try not to stretch your clay because you do want it to stay that 1/8 inch. It's a little fiddly around these turns, but it'll work out. Just be patient with it. Okay, so this is what we have. And so now is what we're going to do is we're going to take our X-Acto, make sure you got a new sharp blade on there, and then I'm just going to cut around the edges. Just like so. Start up here. Just take that off. I actually want my boot to, or my shoe to come up. Like so. Okay, so that's the shape I have. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just take that off. Okay, and then just make sure you got a good connection there. Let's see. And I'm looking straight down my boot so I can see if it's even, and I can tell right now that it's not. So mine starts here. I'm just going to take it around. There we go. You want to try to get it as close as you can. You can also draw little patterns to cut out, if that helps you. Bring it up on that tip. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Got the vamp on. Try not to get any down here because that's where your sole's going to be. And then I just like to get these edges down. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the counter, which is the back piece of your boot. And as what I've done is I've just cut out a rectangle 3 inches by 1 inch. And I'm just going to overlap that a little bit right here. And I'm just going to follow that around my foot, just like so. Okay, let's get a little bit more even. Okay, so just like that. And now I'm just going to cut it. Maybe. I'm just going to cut it in like a rounded off shape. Just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to follow this side around. Same thing, cut it off into the round shape. Alright. And I decided I didn't like this tongue here. So I'm just going to follow this around here. Just like so, and then just take that off. Just like so. We will be adding a tongue in a little bit, but for now, I'm just going to leave that off. Okay. Okay, so now I have just cut a strap. It's 4 inches long by 1/2 inch wide, and I am just going to lay that around the boot, just like so. Just make sure it's even and it looks nice. Okay, and then I'm just going to overlap here just slightly, and then I'm going to take my my X-Acto, and I'm just going to cut that off right there. Okay, same with this side. Oops, bring those together. Okay, so I plan on putting some little jump rings here because I'm going to have her have a lace that holds her shoe together right there. And so is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that and then I'm going to round the boot strap. And to do that, I'm just going to take my tool. I'm just going to go halfway and just round that, just like that. And then I'm going to do the other side the same way with just a small space between them. And then I'm just going to pull that out. And then just clean up your edges, the tool, just like so. Keep your edges crisp. See here, I'm just going to take my tool and run it, just like that. Okay, so let's just clean up our edges. Bring this a little bit down. This is what I've done with this side. Just make you a line there. Now this strap is going over the counter, and so you want to make sure that your counter piece looks like it's tucked up underneath that strap. So I'm just going to drag my tool down, bring this down, just like that. And then just make sure that this looks like it's tucked up underneath that strap. Okay, I'm just going to clean up around these edges. Just smooth them out, but still keep the edge crisp, so it does look like it's its own piece of leather. Okay, and I'm going to just use my brush just to get in here. Make sure that it's nice and clean. Smooth edges. Okay, I'm just going to slightly press these together. Just gently. I want to squish them. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I've just got these small jump rings. You can use grommets, whatever you have on hand. This is what I found, so I'm just going to go ahead and use those. And to do that, I am just going to put a little tiny dent here, just like so, one on each side. Like that, and I'm just going to add a little bit of bacon bond in there. And then I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm just going to place those jump rings and then I'm just going to press down, make them part of the clay, but don't press them down too far because you don't want them buried by the clay. You just want them visible. Okay, let's do the other side. Just press down. Actually, it's a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's what we have. And then we'll be putting laces in here and then tying a bow. I haven't decided if I'm going to use ribbon or a little piece of rope. I'll decide when we get to that point. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and add, I've cut out just a tongue shape. It's just like a rainbow shape here. And it's just made it the width long enough to fit here. So I'm just going to put that there. Just like so. And then I'm going to tuck these ends up underneath and just, I'm going to scope that and make it one with the other clay. Just like so. And then I'm just going to curl this down. Just like that. Okay, looks like I got a piece of clay that needs to be blended in back here. But that is how you do it. Just make sure that it looks like this is going into here. Bring that back. Okay, so that's what we have. And then on these backs, just make sure that you're keeping some room back here for yourself, because that's where your sock's going to be pushed down. Okay, so I like to just keep that. And I think I'm going to add like a little hook that comes down and then a piece here. And to do that, I'm just going to take one of my scraps and cut it. Okay, and then I'm just going to add that back into here, just like so. Now make sure it's down the middle. Mine wasn't, so here we go. Let's try it again. Okay, just like that, and then down the back. So just like that. Actually, I want this hook a little bit bigger. Okay, so there we go. There's that. And then I'm just going to tuck this down into here, to the back of the shoe. And attach it onto that back piece. And then attach it there. And then I'm just going to shape it until I get the round shape I like. Now I'm just going to clean up these edges here, press down a little bit, bring it down. Okay, and it's going to look like it's tucked down into where the sole's going to meet it. Okay, so there we go. I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to put a little bit of smoothing oil on it and just smooth the edges in. And then I'll be back and we're going to add on the sole. Okay, so before we put the heel on, or the sole on, I want to cover from here all the way around to here in clay, just so it will be more uniform with the rest of the boot. And to do that, I'm just going to cut me just a triangle or rectangle shape. Okay. Doesn't need to be perfect. We can cut off if we need to. Just pull that around just like so. Make sure that you get a good connection between that. Between the wet clay and the dry clay. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my tool and I'm going to just run the line here, just like so. Same on this side, just so you know there's a line there. Okay. And then I'm just going to cut any excess off around the heel top or bottom, just like so. Okay, so that's what we have. Alright, yikes. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut out the sole. And to do that, I've just rolled out another long pancake through my pasta machine, about 1/8 of an inch thickness, just like on the rest of the boot, and I'm going to place my boot on the clay, and I'm going to just start cutting around. And I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch width around. Just to give me some space. You can always cut off the excess. It's easier to cut off the excess than it is to add the clay. Okay, and then once you get up here, just start rolling your boot. Just like so, just so you can get that tip. Okay, let's keep going on to this side. Okay, put this to the side. So there's our sole. And now let's just go ahead and attach it. And to do that, I'm just going to place it on my heel. I'm going to cut here. And then I'm just going to start placing this down. Just make sure that's attached there. Okay, just like that. I'm going to bring this back up here. Gently press down. Shape it however you want. Okay, so mine's a little short, but that's okay because I can fix that. I didn't consider the wedge here, so be sure you add that into your calculation when you're cutting. Just blending these in. Okay. start making sure you got your line. And if you have to, just pull down on your upper part, reshape it. Okay, now see I've got a little bit excess here, and so I'm just going to take my X-Acto and I'm just going to trim that down. Just follow the shape of your boot. There we go. I'm going to cut this little wedge out here. Okay, I'm going to add a piece there before we go any further. To do that, I'm just going to pull off a little piece of clay. Okay, just like so. Now we're off there a little bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim that. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm just going to blend that into the sole. Cut this little excess off here. Alright, that looks good. Just blend those in. Okay, and then I'm just going to start going around and redefining my line between the top leather and the sole. To do that, I just follow the shape, just like so. So the vamp and any of this top leather here will be tucked in underneath the sole. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to do that, and then we'll be back and we'll start adding more detail and aging the boot. Okay, so now that we got this all smoothed out, let's go ahead and start aging it. And to do that, I use a bigger paintbrush. I use my detail tool. I use different little tools just to get the lines that I like. Okay, so let's start with the big paintbrush. I'm just going to press in, come around to the other side, press in, same, kind of roll. Okay, put some back here. Let's see. Just press in. I like to put some around the heel. Actually going to use my metal tool just to get some in there. Some in around the toes. Okay, and go back in and deepen these with my put some up underneath here. Now I'm not dragging, I'm pressing and wiggling. And put some in here, just like so. Put some in the other side. Anywhere there would be a natural wrinkle. I like to get on Pinterest and look up old shoes, old Victorian shoes. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration. Let's go ahead and just deepen these. Okay, and then I'm going to use my detailer just to put some more depth into those. Just like so. Add your own little wrinkles. Just be careful with your detail tools, because they can actually just give you like a cut instead of just a wrinkle. Deepen these. Okay. Make some creases across there. I just like to sit and go over them until I get what I like. Okay, and that looks cute. And now I'm just going to reshape my tongue area. Just like so. And reshape these edges. Just get the shape that you like. Everybody has their own different tastes. Okay, so now I'm just going to use my pounce wheels, and I'm just going to go around the very seams here. It's kind of like if you're quilting, you're kind of stitching in the ditch. Just walk it around, just like so. Just follow that curve. If you can see it. This just really brings your piece to life. If you don't have your pounce wheels, you can get them at artdolls.com. They come in a set of 3, and I love mine. I've had them for a while. I just love it. Love the effect you get. Okay. So that's what we have there. See, I'm going to take it on the outside of the hill. And also, don't forget, if you're going to have a standing doll, you need to have your hole open. Okay, and I'm just going to take it around the bottom of the hill. Just like that. And then I'm going to take it around this bottom of the sole. And then just join your seams. Okay, And then I'm going to take my small one, my small pound quill, and just create more little seams. Actually, whoopsies. That's okay. Just go over it. There we go. Hopefully you can see this detail. Just slowly follow it around. Just like so. Okay, and then I'm going to do one here. Just follow the upper edge, hold on to it. Okay, same with this one. Just follow the upper edge around, reshape it. I'm going to put lines up my little handle here. Okay. And then I'm gonna also, one more thing, I'm just going to follow my tongue around. Okay, there we go. There's your boot. I'm going to go bake this 275 for 10 minutes, and then we'll be back to paint him. Alright, so is what I use to paint my shoes is I use just some, these are just scrubby brushes. This is about a 1/2 inch, and this one is just another small scrubby brush. Let's see, it's about probably a 1/4 inch, and then just an old beat up paintbrush. This looks like it's a square tip, and then a deerfoot brush. And then the colors that I'm going to be using is raw sienna for my base, and this is just Liquitex Basics. I'm going to be using red oxide because I want a little bit of orange in my boot, and then I'm going to be using the burnt umber just to bring some richness into it, and then for the antiquing I'm going to use the unbleached titanium. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, and I'm just going to start with my deerfoot. I'm just going to get the very tips wet and tap it off on my paintbrush, and then I'm going to come over to my palette and just, let's see, maybe a little bit more water, not too runny. You still want to keep that pigment in there. Okay, and then we're just going to go ahead and start scrubbing that on. Just like that. Let's see, it's still a little too thick. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it. Now, your first layer, you don't want it really super thick, because if you do, then your paint is just going to flake off as it ages. And that's something that you don't want. So just get that first wash on. Alright, so that looks great. I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, and then we'll be back. Okay, so this is dry enough now to continue. Is what I've done is I've put out some of the red oxide and the burnt umber onto my palette, and I've just mixed all three colors together to create a darker burnt orangish color. Okay, and now I'm just going to start going into these wrinkles. Just get them in there. Going around the edge of the hills, just like so. Get in there, get around these edges. I like to take it around these edges, get in there. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my scrubby brush and I'm just going to kind of scrub that all in, just like so. Try to get rid of any harsh lines. Okay, so that's what we have so far. We're going to go ahead and let that dry. Okay, so let's continue on and adding more depth and color to this, and I'm just going to start now just blending my brown, the burnt umber, with my red oxide just to give it a deep, rich hue. Okay, then I'm just going to start going around same areas, just start going in there. So blot some of that off my brush, get in there. Okay, just want to add some color. Just pounce it down in there. The creases again, just like so. Get around the heel area, or not the heel, but the toe. Now with this layer, I'm not putting water on it. I just put a little bit to dampen my brush so that the paint will move, but you don't want a watercolor. Get up underneath there, get the edges, go around the heel. Around, all the way around it. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my scrubby brush and just scrub that again. And I'm not just getting in there and just putting all my muscle into it, I'm just lightly doing it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in and start introducing more brown to my color to make it more rich. Okay, I'm going to put that here, mostly in the wrinkles, just get those deep wrinkles in there. I'm going to go around the edge of the boot, around the heel, where the sole and the foot meet right here, all the way around. Just get in there and get those threads. Add some to the heel, because we do want our heel to be darker than the rest. Some back here. I like to really get it in around those edges. Just brings it to life. Looks like I got a bald spot in there where I don't have any paint, so just be watching for that. And then I like to take it around all these edges. Just really get it up in there so it looks like you do have two pieces. Okay, so it looks like that does need to dry, so we're going to go ahead and let that dry. Okay, so that's dried, so now I'm just going to go back in with my burnt umber. I'm not using any water on my brush. This is more like a dry brush technique, and then I'll just rub the brush on my paper towel just to get rid of some of that pigment. Okay, a little bit more here. And then I'm just going to go deepen that up. Darken my toe. Just give it some interest. Just gonna feather some color onto here. Go around. Okay, I'm actually going to switch brushes and go back to my small deerfoot. I'm just going to pounce some of that dark brown, the burnt umber, into my creases. Just like so. I'm just going to feather some in on the edges here, just using a motion like this. Same on these corners. Going to pounce in on your wrinkles back in the back. Anywhere you got wrinkles. Then I'm going to start pouncing it onto my heel. Let's get some color in there. Okay, and I'm just going to use my other deerfoot and just kind of clean that up. Okay, and I'm actually going to use some black for the sole. Okay, so I've just added some Mars Black to my palette, and I'm going to get my brush just slightly wet and pounce it off onto my paper towel. Okay, and I'm going to take some of this black, just a small amount, and I'm going to add it into my brown. I don't like using just straight black, it's too strong. And then I'm just going to start painting my heel. Just like so. So pounce that a little bit more. A bit more darkness to that. Around this outer heel here. A bit more darkness. Now when you're mixing your black into other colors, you just want to use the tiniest amount because it is very dark. It only takes a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going around the bottom of this guess this is the sole. That's what you would call it. Just pounce, pounce. Start brushing here. I did put my initials on the bottom of this boot. I was wondering what it would look like, so I did it. And if you want to darken up the wrinkles with these, with this darker color, go ahead and do that now. I would blend it as you go, because it seems like the more color you put on here, the faster the paint dries. I'm just going to pounce around my heel. Give me some lights and darks in there. Makes it look more natural. Same with here, just pounce. And then you can just feather the tips. Okay, I want it a little bit more darker around the tips of my tongue. On these edges here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do one more layer over the sole, and then I'm going to call it good. A little bit of black into that. Pounce it off on my napkin. Okay, that is our boot. And if you think that you've got too much color on there, you can always take a damp paper towel, just very damp, and just kind of rub it on there, and it'll pick up some of the paint, and then that'll kind of help you out there. But this is it. This is the painting of the boot. We'll be back to put laces in that. Let's see. Actually, move this so you can see better. Turned out pretty cool. Okay, so after your boot has dried, you want to get a Q-tip and dampen the tip, and then just take it around your jump rings just to get that paint off. Just like so. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in our laces. I've decided just to use a string that I have just stained with coffee stained. Just gives it an antique look. Okay, and to do that, I'm just going to take my Fast Grab tacky glue, and I'm going to put a little bit out. You don't need very much. Grab a toothpick, load it, and just place that glue right in the center, just like so. Okay, same with the other side. Alright, and then I'm going to lay my laces straight across, and I'm going to hold on to them, and then I'm going to use my metal tool, and I'm just going to press that string right in, just like so. Give it a good push. Get the excess glue on your tool. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. You could also use a toothpick for this. This is just what I'm used to. Okay. There you go. And if there's any excess clay or glue, sorry, just take it out. You don't want big globs coming out. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Go ahead and let it dry, and then we'll be back to tie those shoes. Okay, so the glue's dried enough to go ahead and tie them. So what I'm going to do is just tie it just like a regular shoe. And I did cut my string extra long so we could do this. Okay, and I'm just going to... Okay. Just act like you're tying your own shoe. And then what I'm going to do is start gently pulling the edges, get my ends. Okay, I'm just going to pull those, and then I'm going to retighten it, and I'm going to pull again until you get the bowl size you would like, and just give it a good tighten. And I think I want bigger bows on her, so I'm going to kind of stick with this. Okay, so that's what we have, and then you just clip off the ends of your laces, and then for security purposes I like to just go in and just put a tab of glue right there on behind that bow, so just so it won't come off or come untied. Okay. And your glue dries clear, so don't worry about that. Then I just work it down into my knot, just like so. Okay, and then when that dries, you don't have to worry about that bow coming undone. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to clip off my ends. So, let's see, I'll probably do here. Amber. And then I'll clip off here. These little strings worked out perfectly. I just stained them and crinkled them up. Okay, there we go. There's our witch boot, all done. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and start wrapping. We're not going to wrap the body yet. We are going to start adding all the pieces, the feet, the hands, and the head onto the armature, and then we'll wrap it. So get your hot glue gun going. You'll be needing that.